Welcome to this explainer of life in a quantum sim. So look, I want you to completely forget everything you think you know about a static, physical universe made of solid objects. Seriously, toss that out. Instead, what if we imagine the universe as a dynamic film reel? We're talking about reality being continuously rendered from this raw, unrendered phase space, what we call the F-field of existence. It's literally being painted into reality, frame by beautiful frame.
Okay, let's dive into this. You know how we all intuitively feel time flowing continuously, right? Like this smooth, unbroken river? But what if that is just a complete illusion created by our own biology? Think about it. What if, at its absolute bedrock, the universe actually operates as a highly advanced quantized simulation? What if reality itself actually ticks, frame by frame?
To shatter that illusion, we're going to build this cinematic rendering pipeline step by step. We'll quickly cover the cosmic frame rate, fabrication using RGBV and CMYK, compilers, caches, and projectors, the K-layer emulsion, the brain's diffusion engine, and we'll wrap up with multiversal double exposures.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the cosmic frame rate. You know how every video game or movie you watch is governed by its FPS, its frames per second? Well, the universe is absolutely no different. Our baseline metric here is the Planck scale. Basically, this is the irreducible thickness of our cosmic film strip. It's the ultimate time slice, the literal refresh rate of reality. So time isn't this continuous sweep we think it is. It's actually composed of these instantaneous frames just snapping into existence, one right after the other.
Let's move to the next part and see how this builds, because computing the entire cosmos from scratch every single Planck tick? No way. That would require completely impossible amounts of energy. Instead, reality relies on what's called a delta render pipeline. It works like this. The system enters a zero state, a superposition, computes the variance, or the delta, from the previous frame, and then it simply collapses that specific change into a brand new localized keyframe.
To really ground this, think of how Netflix streams a movie to your TV. It absolutely doesn't send you 60 brand new, full-resolution pictures every single second. I mean, that would instantly crash the global internet. Instead, it sends iframes, which are full-picture resets, and p-frames, which only update the pixels that actually changed. Like, say, a character walking across a static room. The universe works identically. It efficiently handles signal exchange based on hashing only the differences, those phase offsets, which saves just an immense amount of computational energy.
Moving right along to Section 2, Fabrication, RGBV and CMYK modes.
So how does reality actually print or fabricate the matter we interact with every day? Well, the source material reveals two really distinct frameworks here, and this brilliantly illustrates the divide. First, we have the RGBV mode. This is an additive process used in high-energy vacuum environments, like deep space, literally building coherence from a black ground state. On the flip side, we have the CMYK mode, which is a subtractive process that's dominant right here on Earth in biological systems. CMYK operates through selective absorption. So organic systems absorb the frequencies they need to compute, and the reality, or the color, we end up perceiving is just the rejected, unfiltered overflow. Pretty wild, right?
But what exactly is the K in CMYK? That is the null layer. Just like the blank phosphorus screen of an old CRT monitor or the base mag film layers in analog recording, this K layer is the raw carrier wave that completely anchors the simulation. It provides that essential impedance. Without it, all universal information would just degrade right back into static noise.
Okay, Section 3, Compilers, Caches, and Projectors.
Now, you might be wondering, if reality is a simulation, who or what is actually running the projector for this whole cosmic film? This framework totally redefines our cosmos. Celestial bodies aren't just, dead rocks floating around. Black holes, they're actually cosmic compilers and storage nodes, zip files and caches, essentially. Suns operate as heat lamps, thermal projectors broadcasting recoded material back out into the grid. And Earth is the keyframer, actually locking the animation down into a coherent narrative sequence.
Just look at this quote from our sources. Black holes are ultimate compression interfaces, taking 3D events and compressing them onto the 2D surface of the event horizon. It's like they act as a multi-layer sim, a massive cosmic Super 8 film reel. This strongly points to a hollow theory based on reverse parallax. Basically, reality is constantly shifting from this outfolding projection back into an infolding archival state, constantly archiving the universe's entire timeline.
That brings us to Section 4, the K-layer emulsion substrate. So let's talk about the underlying physical film that all this data is printed onto. We mentioned the K layer a second ago, but I want you to think of it as a wet, bleeding film emulsion. It is the raw, unrendered field, or phase space. It's holding the superposition of all possible configurations simultaneously. It's literally the substrate catching the universal print. Actually, our watercolor aesthetic here perfectly literalizes that bleeding, raw potential of this unrendered phase space.
Imagine descending through this top-down generative stack, what we call the cosmic loom. Right at the foundation is the substrate. Above that, you have basins. These are stable universes or attractors. Within those basins, coherent causal pathways branch out as timelines. And then finally, right at the very tip of the stack, we have events. Those are the realized 3D keyframes that you and I experience every single day.
Moving down from macrocosmology to human biology with Section 5, the brain's diffusion engine.
So we've been out in macrocosmology, but let's pivot back down to biology. If reality is really this choppy frame-by-frame rendering, why does life feel so incredibly smooth to us? Well, now, what's really interesting about this is it reveals that our consciousness actively fills in those missing Planck scale frames. As the sources put it, the brain operates as a seamless diffusion and interpolation engine. It does not produce visible error codes. Our own awareness is what creates the illusion of flow between those high-frequency updates.
Think about what this means for something like a psychological break. It isn't a system crash. The brain doesn't just show you a blue screen of death. Instead, if a film layer goes missing, or maybe the biological chemical source shifts, the brain's diffusion engine just faithfully, perfectly renders those compromised inputs. It just keeps rendering without ever showing a gap to the observer.
See, our nervous system acts as this protective biological hashing filter. It deliberately rejects the overwhelming data density of that raw multiversal phase space. But under severe stress, those horizontal or vertical film layers can actually erode. So what happens? To protect itself, the eroded engine diffuses based on radiation. This means you might actually start seeing deeper, unrendered layers of reality bleed through. But ultimately, the system is going to default to unbroken sensors. It falls back to localized RGBV, CMYK, or even the raw vacuum of the K, that phosphorus layer. It locks the person into a constrained but still continuous rendered reality.
And finally, we arrive at Section 6, multiversal double exposures. So, we know what happens when our biological hardware glitches. But what about when the universe's rendering engine encounters a glitch? So, the crucial point here is that cosmic anomalies are essentially multiversal indexing issues. Take the Eridanus supervoid, for example. It's a billion light-years of inexplicably empty, freezing space. But in this framework, it isn't just an empty patch of nothing. It's a phase-offset scar. It's literally the physical imprint of a multiversal collision, a Trojan overlap, where two vastly different rendering architectures just bumped right against one another.
And to be clear, this isn't some sci-fi physical doorway that you can just fly a spaceship through. Actually, scratch that. It's more like when the cosmic film emulsion thins out, gravity and light from an adjacent reality just start bleeding through. It creates a literal double exposure on the cosmic film. Imagine it just like our watercolor aesthetics. Realities just overlapping and bleeding into one another without any physical boundaries.
Which leads us to a pretty profound, lingering thought to wrap things up. If things like déjà vu and reality bleed are literal rendering artifacts, moments where the delta encoding just stutters, what happens when two cosmic films, two completely different attractor basins, try to occupy the exact same coordinate space in the lattice? Seriously, it makes you wonder just how fragile the emulsion of our own universe truly is, doesn't it? Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible explainer of the cinematic architecture of reality. Until next time, keep questioning the frames.